When creating a feature pattern in SOLIDWORKS, you have the option of varying a sketch, patterning the geometry, and propagating a feature's visual properties. In this lesson, I want to go over each of these options and show you a quick example of how each can be applied. Let's begin with the Vary Sketch option. The Vary Sketch option allows pattern instances to change dimensions as they're repeated. For this first example, notice that the cutout feature is already being patterned. However, instead of having the cutout remain the same size, I'd rather it change height to match the part's angled side. Now that's where the Vary Sketch option comes in. There's a couple of things to keep in mind when using this option. Let's begin by taking a look at the seed feature's sketch. This sketch must be fully defined, yet must not constrain the dimension to be varied. For example, since we're interested in varying the cutout's height, the sketch must not have a constrained height dimension. Instead, the sketch is fully defined by including some offset values. Now this is key, and is what will allow the sketch to properly vary in height. I'll exit the sketch, and now edit the pattern feature. If we look in the options box, you'll notice that the Vary Sketch option is currently grayed out. In order to enable this option, the pattern's direction must be specified by a dimension and not an edge. So instead of using edge 1, I'll select the seed feature's distance dimension. Also, keep in mind that this dimension will be considered as the pattern's driving dimension. So while selecting the cutout's width may seem as another possible alternative, it would actually give us a different result when varying the sketch. With the direction defined, I can go ahead and activate Vary Sketch. I'll click the green check, and the pattern is updated with each instance appropriately varying in height. Let me switch to a different example and continue to the Geometry Pattern option. This option creates pattern instances by copying feature geometry, rather than solving each instance individually. Let me show you what I mean. In this case, I want to pattern the whole cutout. I'll create a section view to get a better look. Notice that the hole is slanted parallel to the top face. In fact, if I edit the cutout feature, we see the end condition is set to offset from surface. More specifically, it's offset 2.5 inches from the top face. Now with this in mind, I'll exit the feature and begin a new linear pattern. With the cutout feature selected, I'll specify the direction, distance, and the number of instances. I'll scroll down to the options box, and with the geometry pattern option unchecked, let's see what happens. Notice that each pattern instance is offset by the correct end condition amount. With geometry pattern unchecked, SOLIDWORKS individually solves each pattern instance. In this case, the end condition was repeatedly calculated and applied. Geometry pattern provides a quicker option to creating and rebuilding a pattern. Instead of solving each instance individually, the seed feature is copied, and any end conditions or feature calculations are ignored. Now let me go back and edit the pattern. This time I'll enable the Geometry Pattern option and click the green check. Notice the difference. With the geometry pattern selected, the seed feature's geometry is copied along the specified direction, and each instance's end condition is completely ignored. Now before concluding this lesson, there's one last option I want to go over, and that's the option to propagate visual properties. As implied, this option propagates any appearance or visual property, such as color and texture, to all pattern instances. I'll edit the pattern feature to make sure Propagate Visual Properties is unchecked. With the option inactive, I'll go ahead and change the color of the seed feature's end face. With the color added, I can go back and edit the pattern feature once more. This time, I'll select Propagate Visual Properties, and when I click the green check, we see the color changes propagated to all the pattern instances.